Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's on DisneyPlus.com. A quick news update for you guys on how Disney Plus in the UK could get more expensive. But before we go any further, make sure you do hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest Disney Plus news. So over the last decade, we have seen some major changes to the way that people watch television, with people moving from linear television, cable and satellite over to streaming platforms. And this has resulted in a major change in how movies and shows are made, specifically in different countries around the world, as the global streaming services have become much more globalized and also just generally are making a lot less content in each country. Now, we used to have lots of shows and films being made here in the UK, and it's still one of the biggest hubs in the world. But obviously there's a lot of kind of worry about it in the future, because we've seen with the big streaming services as they are looking to make money and trying to cut costs. And we've seen the amount of UK productions being reduced, especially on Disney Plus. And also this is impacting on our homegrown platforms like the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, etc., because money is drying up. And this has resulted in kind of the government doing some investigations into what to do. So earlier today, the UK Culture Committee put in some recommendations to the UK government to look at ways of trying to improve things for the UK film industry. And there's lots of other things they're looking into, AI, tax breaks and stuff. But one of the key things that I wanted to bring to your attention is the idea of a levy of 5% on streaming services. So this would impact on Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon, which would be a 5% of the revenue in that country would then go into a culture fund to create new films and shows. Now, obviously, at the minute, this is just a recommendation. The UK government, Labour, hasn't said yes. That something might change at the minute. They don't look to be kind of doing something with that one. Netflix was very quick to put out a statement saying that if this was to be brought in, they would pass that 5% cost on to the UK subscriber, and that it's not good for them, and that it's better to be incentivized to be making British content rather than being penalized. And on one hand, that sounds great. Make it so it's good for more of these companies like Disney to make UK stuff. That is great. So as we all know, with these big major global companies, they will do anything to keep making money and to save money. And if that means that they don't have to make local content, they won't unless they're forced to do so, which is why so many different countries around the world have been introducing similar things to this. Now, I think this is better than having a quota that the European Union have had, because that's difficult. If you've got shows coming in from Japan and Korea and Latin America and stuff like that, trying to have a quota system is just physically impossible. So therefore, a levy just means then of how many people are subscribed to the UK. They will then get a chunk of it. Maybe this could be a replacement, ultimately maybe for the BBC license. That's a whole other situation. But there is a general worry, and I definitely agree with this, is that if we just let the big streamers do what they want with no intervention from the government, we're going to end up with hardly any British stories, and that would be the same around the world. They're only going to get ones that they think is going to be big hits. We're not going to get the same little documentaries, little stories that wouldn't necessarily have been made because they aren't aimed at a global audience. Now, obviously, they want to try and encourage UK subscribers, but we can see with how they're doing stuff that generally, here in the UK, we're pretty good in the fact that our shows will tend to travel pretty well to the US, Canada, Australia, and around the world. We're not getting originals from every country that has Disney Plus because they've deemed that that's not popular. We're seeing a lot of stuff coming out of Korea and Japan because they are big international hits, so it makes it easier for them to do. And, even the committee has acknowledged the fact that, everything is on a global scale and it has to appeal to a bigger audience, which is great on one hand. You can have a show that goes out maybe like Rivals, which appeals to a bigger audience. But sometimes there's stuff that gets made and wouldn't get made that just wouldn't maybe appeal to a US audience. And I think this is where I definitely slide into the idea of, I think, is it better to have a levy straight on the top of everyone, so everyone is paying it, and therefore it's it's safe? I know a lot of people don't want to pay anything more, and they don't want, and everything should just find a way, and no one should have to pay for stuff. In reality, if they do that, there is going to be a lot of people out of work, and the UK film industry in 10, 20, 30 years will be very different than what it is now. And, that could be the market finding a way. But what I wouldn't want to see is we end up getting to a situation where everything is just filmed in Atlanta, in New York, in Los Angeles, and maybe, Pinewood Studios here in London gets a little bit here and there. But generally, everything is just the same stuff around the world, and there's no national flavour which makes everything a little bit more interesting. You know, I like watching Australian documentaries and, you know, Korean dramas and Japanese anime and European, you know, I want a little bit of variety. And I do worry that if they don't have something forced on them, Netflix and the other ones, they ain't gonna do it. They don't want to spend out money that they don't want to. They are gonna pass that on to subscribers, which is just a natural way of things moving forward. But we've got to, you know, put out the thing of, is it what's better, what's not? And everyone's going to have a different opinion. I'd love to hear yours in the comments below. Would you like, if it was a 5% cost increase for Disney Plus, Netflix, and Blink? Because I want to put that out there. This will be for all of them. So this would impact on all the global streamers. Would you agree to that one? You know, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed if they did that and they got rid of the BBC license fee and they took the money from that. I don't think that would ever happen because that wouldn't be a very good commercial decision. I still believe in the BBC, and how it's funded does make it unique, and I have been a fan of it since I was a kid, and I will continue to be a fan of it. But I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of this one. And yeah, obviously as well, it just doesn't spread outside of the UK, but I think we're going to see similar things happening in Canada, Australia, you know, there's a lot, France, there's all these different countries that are all kind of looking at ways of trying to protect their local industries. But I'd love to know, do you think a levy is the way to go or not? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. Go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe, and I shall see you guys soon. Laters.